All right, so today we're going to dive into something that, honestly, everyone thinks they have all figured out. Why people quit their jobs. Is it bad bosses, lousy pay? I mean, we've all been there, right?
Yeah, it seems pretty obvious, doesn't it?
Totally. But get this, the research we're diving into today focuses specifically on Gen Y workers in India.
In India's IT and BPO sectors, to be precise.
Right, exactly. And their findings are kind of turning conventional wisdom on its head.
Absolutely. This is not just another study on employee turnover. This one, it really throws light on the shifting dynamics between employees and employers. Especially now, as the global workforce is evolving at such a crazy pace.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so here's the real kicker. This research, it highlights a huge disconnect between what managers say and what employees actually experience. Like, you'll have these managers and they're out there boasting, we're the best paymasters, amazing perks, you name it, we offer the works. But then
the employees tell a different story.
Completely different. In fact, the study actually quotes some employees saying they felt underpaid and undervalued. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's a classic example of what we call the psychological contract at play.
Psychological contract. Okay, now you've got me intrigued. Tell me more.
It's basically like this unspoken set of expectations, right? It exists between employers and employees. Both sides, they come in with all these assumptions about, what makes a good job, what fair treatment looks like, even just basic respect in the workplace. And when those expectations don't quite match up, well, you can imagine what happens.
Okay. So it's kind of like, I think I'm getting super clear expectations and feedback from my manager, but to them, a quick good job every few months totally cuts it.
Exactly. And it's precisely that misalignment that can breed resentment, frustration, and eventually lead to, you guessed it, people heading for the door.
Which brings us to the age-old question. Is it really all about the money?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. So while salary is definitely important, I mean, let's be real, nobody's working for free. This study on Gen Y workers in India, it found that it's not as straightforward as just, okay, pay people more money and poof, problem solved, no more turnover.
It never is it?
Never. It's way more nuanced than that. It's about striking a balance between what we call extrinsic rewards and intrinsic rewards.
Okay, hold on. Let's break that down a little bit. Remind me again, what are extrinsic rewards?
So think of it this way. Extrinsic rewards are basically like the external motivators. Think bonuses, fancy job titles, the corner office, all that jazz, the stuff you can kind of show off.
Okay, got it. And intrinsic, that's more about how the work makes you feel.
You got it. Intrinsic rewards are all about those internal feelings. Do you feel challenged by your work? Do you feel valued? Are you learning and growing? Those are all intrinsic rewards.
So this research basically found that for Gen Y, it's not just about the size of their paycheck. It's also about feeling fulfilled in their work.
Right, exactly. The study highlighted that this generation, they're craving those challenging projects. They want flexibility in how and where they work. And this is a big one. They really value frequent and positive feedback. And guess what? A lot of companies just weren't delivering on that.
Wow. I bet that lack of feedback is a way bigger deal than most companies realize.
Oh, absolutely. And this is where things get really, really interesting. This research actually uncovered something pretty remarkable about Gen Y's sense of loyalty.
Okay, you got to tell me. What did the research reveal? What's up with Gen Y and loyalty in the workplace?
Well, this is where things get really interesting. This is kind of the aha moment of the whole study, really.
Okay, you've got to lay it on me then.
It turns out that these younger employees, they were feeling a much stronger sense of loyalty to, get this, their colleagues, and that overall work environment vibe, rather than to the actual company itself.
Wait, hold on. You're telling me they cared more about their work buddies than, like, the CEO?
Not the CEO, necessarily, but yeah. You're spot on. You've hit the nail on the head. They were just way more invested in, like, the people they're interacting with on a daily basis, and that feeling of, like, is this a cool place to be? More than some, vague idea of the company's mission statement or whatever.
Wow. Okay, that's huge. Why do you think that is?
It's definitely a big deal, and I think it reflects a really significant shift that we're seeing in the workplace in general. Like the rise of remote work, the whole emphasis on company culture nowadays. It really all boils down to, that very human need for connection, for belonging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's like in a world that honestly can feel super isolating sometimes, having that supportive group of people at work, it's almost like a little work tribe. It becomes even more important.
Exactly. You said it. And it's not even just about like the surface level perks and stuff, not just free snacks or a cool office or anything way deeper than that. Yeah. It's about cultivating this culture of genuine respect and open communication and, real, genuine appreciation for each other.
Okay, so how does that actually play out in the real world? Like, did the study give any specific examples?
Oh, yeah, definitely. There was one that really stood out to me when I was reading it. It was about these employees who basically they chose to stay in their roles, even though, honestly, some of the conditions weren't great. The work itself wasn't maybe super fulfilling.
But they stayed because?
Because they genuinely valued working with their friends, those social connections. Honestly, it made all the difference for them.
Wow, that's wild. It's like they were willing to put up with a less than ideal job just because they loved their teammates so much.
It really goes to show you, how powerful that sense of camaraderie and shared purpose can be, especially for this generation, Gen Y, they're all about that.
Totally. So it really sounds like, based on all of this, that companies need a huge mindset shift when it comes to, everything. Attracting talent, retaining talent. Would you agree?
100%. And the really cool thing is this study, it actually addresses this head on. They talk about this concept of push versus pull approaches to HR.
Push versus pull. Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me. I'm all ears.
Okay, so picture this. A push approach is all about, cutting costs, often at the expense of things that employees really value.
So we're talking about, skimping on professional development opportunities.
Yeah.
Minimal training budgets, that kind of thing.
You nailed it. It also can look like a super strong emphasis on, performance monitoring, those metrics, instead of, really offering support and creating a more positive environment for people to thrive in.
So basically, accidentally creating an environment that pushes people right out the door.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way, right? But then on the flip side, you have the pull approach. And this is all about creating a workplace that people are naturally drawn to, almost like a magnet.
Okay, so what does that look like in practice?
It means actually investing in employee well-being, providing those growth opportunities, making sure people feel like they belong. That sense of community we were just talking about, it's crucial. And yeah, it might cost more up front, I'm not going to lie.
But in the long run?
In the long run, it can lead to a way happier, more engaged workforce. And that, my friend, usually translates to lower turnover, which at the end of the day saves companies money.
It's like a no-brainer when you put it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does this pull strategy actually look like in action? Are there companies out there, like real-world examples of companies who are killing it in the pull department?
Oh, absolutely. There are tons of really inspiring examples out there, and we'll definitely dive into some of those in just a bit. But first, let's take a look at how these push and pull strategies, how they really impact you directly.
This whole push versus pull thing, it really gets you thinking, huh?
It really does.
It's like if you're a company and you're just laser focused on cutting costs wherever you can, even in little ways, you're almost like guaranteeing that you're going to end up with an environment that honestly people just want to run from.
It's so true. And I think that's where a lot of companies go wrong. They kind of forget about the human side of things.
Totally.
It's not just about the bottom line. Investing in your employees, creating that positive, supportive culture, it shouldn't be seen as just the nice thing to do. It's a smart business strategy. It really is.
100%. Okay, so let's get practical here. For all our listeners out there, what are some key takeaways? Let's say you're a manager. You're listening to this. You're like, okay, I get it. I need to embrace this whole pull approach. Mm-hmm. What are some things they can actually do, starting today, to make that happen?
Well, I think first and foremost, make frequent, genuine feedback a huge priority. And I don't just mean a generic good job every once in a blue moon, right? It's got to be way more intentional than that. Recognizing individual contributions, really offering specific constructive feedback and creating this culture where people feel comfortable giving and receiving feedback. That open communication, it's everything.
So ditch the whole annual performance review and instead aim for more regular check-ins, more authentic conversations.
100%. And it's not even just about what you say, right? It's also about how you say it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Tone is everything.
Gen Y, they really value authenticity. This research highlighted that. They can sniff out a phony a mile away, So just be real with them.
So authenticity is key. What else?
I think it's also really important to think about the actual work itself. Yeah. The tasks, the projects. Is it designed in a way that's actually engaging for people?
That's such a good point. Because so many times people are just stuck in these roles that are just so monotonous.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. No one wants to feel like a cog in a machine. So think about, Are there ways to tweak things, to give people more autonomy, more ownership, Let them use their skills and feel challenged. Give them a chance to shine.
Yeah, like forget the ping pong table and the free beer Fridays.
Yes.
Give people work that actually lights them up. Work that matters.
Yes, you get it. And honestly, never underestimate the power of just like fostering a sense of belonging on your team. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, but those social connections, they're so powerful. So as a manager, if you can create opportunities for people to connect, to bond, not just about work stuff.
Right.
That goes a long way.
It's huge. Okay, so to recap for our amazing managers out there, ditch the push, embrace the pull. Prioritize genuine feedback, design work that doesn't make people want to run for the hills, and create a workplace where people actually feel like they belong.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mic drop. Okay, but now I'm curious, what about everyone else listening? What about the employees out there? What should they be taking away from all of this?
I would say don't underestimate the power of company culture and those team dynamics when you're, considering a job offer. Don't just get dazzled by a fancy job title or a big salary, right?
Oh my gosh, that's so true. It's so easy to get caught up in that stuff.
Yeah.
But if you get there, you're like, oh no, what have I gotten myself into?
Right. Like, you could be making bank, but if you're miserable with your team or the company's values clash with yours, it's not worth it. Trust me.
Not at all.
So do your research. Before you accept a job, talk to people who actually work there. Get a feel for the vibe, Does it seem like a place where you can actually be yourself, where you can thrive?
It's kind of like dating, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't just swipe right on someone based solely on a cute picture and a catchy bio.
Okay, yes, that is a perfect analogy.
You got to make sure there's actually some compatibility there.
Love it.
Well, this deep dive has given us a lot to think about. It's amazing how this research really challenges those traditional ideas about why people stay or leave their jobs.
It really does. It flips the script. And it kind of leaves us with this final thought-provoking question, I think, If employee loyalty really is shifting more and more towards the immediate team, that sense of belonging, rather than the company as a whole, what does that mean for the future of work? It's a big question.
It is a big question. No easy answers there, but definitely something worth thinking about. And that's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this awesome exploration of, why people quit, but more importantly, how we can create workplaces where people actually want to stay.